Drop the ball down.
All right, and just like that, we are back. Hey, everybody, welcome to This Pink Cloud. We are a show that is all about multiple pathways to recovery, mental health, all that good stuff. I am DJ Kelly Reverb. I am an RSPS, which is a light smattering of claps.
No air horn for you.
No air horn for me. But then when I go to Chad Lamons, everybody... No,
stupid.
There you go. Where's the fart noise today, dude?
Hold on. Yeah, just keep going.
I'll keep going. And I'll find it. We'll find it. Hey, thanks for tuning in this week, guys. I've got one of my good buddies, and then please don't find the fart noise now once I'm introing him. But one of my good buddies, man, we go back 90s style, right? At least, right? Yeah. 90s?
Early mid 2000s.
Yeah, that was the sweet spot for our addictions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I've known the guy, I guess, yeah, like early 2000s, but his name is Andrew Blanchard, and he also produces as Faucon, which we will get into that. But a former party buddy of mine, and, scenester, I guess, wherever there was cocaine, we were there. Correct?
Oh, yeah.
Right. But
if it wasn't there, it'd be there soon.
Exactly, dude. You had a plug.
Until you ran out,
up.
and then there would be some more.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Until it was 7 a.m, and then there would be some more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always.
Exactly. But my good friend, thanks for coming in. I
Thanks for
know
having me.
you're out in Grapevine now, so you had to deal with some traffic, but all good. You made it, dude. All
Happy
good.
to be here.
Well, so yeah, it's so random how these things happen because all of a sudden, I'm in recovery and I say something about it, and then you say something about it, and then I'm like, oh, dude, bro, we're on the same team.
I know.
It's awesome. But it's crazy how we were both, on a similar pathway back in the day, and it got really bad for both of us. Yours was a little different, but I don't want to step on your story, so why don't you kind of give the people, a little background story of how it happened and where it went wrong.
So when I was driving here, I actually went around Willie's old apartment.
Okay, Willie Trimmer.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
shout out Willie
So
Trimmer.
when I first started getting in the music scene, I went and got turntables and some vinyl records and went to a record store and met a DJ Format. And we were going to the same place, the same party that night. And ended up meeting Willie and getting into his crew, and we had wild times back then. But that
was the 12-inch pimps.
Yeah, of course.
I always called them secretly the 2-pump chumps.
Well,
secretly to his face, I would call him that.
Well, in the mid to late 2000s, we were doing a lot of stuff. In Dallas,
it was Johnny Five, the other Kelly,
Kelly Taylor,
Kelly Taylor.
So his apartment was right over here, and we would edit photos after the gigs.
And
I would go over there with one of my friends. I'm not going to say his name on here, but we would go over there and do a bunch of drugs and edit photos, and Willie would come down and be like, stop doing cocaine in here and leave. But yeah, so I, in high school, I was kind of a nerd. I didn't do drugs or drink until like my senior year of high school. And I remember the first time I ever smoked weed like it was yesterday.
Right.
Because it had such a profound impact on my life. Saying the first time I did cocaine, I can tell you what the sky looked like, what I was wearing, what it smelled like. It changed so much for me. Like I felt at home for the first time.
Right. You felt like you had arrived.
Of course.
Yeah.
I feel like cocaine smells good.
It does smell very good. But it did at least. Until
right.
But I, whenever I went to college, kind of had a sheltered upbringing, and when I went to college, it was like the world opened up to me.
Right.
And the first time I really got blackout drunk, I remember that like it was yesterday too, until I blacked out. But
Right.
All those things had such a profound impact on my life, and I remember them like they were yesterday. And so when I went to college, I started doing drugs and started exploring all of that, and I had always loved electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
My addiction kind of progressed, as you know most things do when you leave the nest and
Sure.
go to college, and ended up
Well, what year did you go to college?
So 2002, I graduated high school and went to TCU,
Okay.
and I was at TCU for 2 years.
Okay.
Failed out
Nice.
quickly.
Yes. Good job.
Yes.
Right.
I was not into going to class.
Right. Yeah. That's just something that you can maybe.
course.
Yeah. Right. It's optional.
I wasn't ready.
Right.
And I wasn't mature enough.
Well,
at
that's
time.
that was for me. The first thing was, oh my God, college. I'm like, oh, they don't care if I show up or not.
Right.
You know, it's just the parents that care after the end of that that semester. Of
course.
But I was like, oh, bonus, I don't have to show up. And then the DJing thing took off for me, you know, that early, and I'm like, man, I'm making $500 a week, dude.
Yeah.
In the 80s, I was like, oh, dude, I'm set.
You
This
made
is
it.
my career, dude.
Well, the same thought happened to me. I was in home construction and like had internships in the summertime, and I got offered a job to go build houses for a big home builder or do customer service for a big home builder and in the construction department. And they offered me $28,500 a year.
Hell yeah, dude.
And
where do I sign?
At 20 years old, I thought I was a millionaire.
Oh yeah.
And so I left. I had $400 a month in rent. You know, I mean, I was partying nonstop. You know, and
Well, so did you also have a side business, or were you only a consumer as far as the cocaine goes?
I tried to be that dealer, but I was never good at it.
Right, like to sustain the addiction.
Yeah, so
You
when
know?
we were at TCU, we did that.
Right.
But you know, I was always the reject that would just do it all and then
yeah.
have to
Right.
pay for it.
Oh,
and so
crap.
Right.
Right.
So I ended up you know, progressing through that and going out to still partying and stuff, but I got laid off in the 2008 crash.
Right.
Like the precursor to that was in 2006 when things started to get really bad in the home building industry, and I got laid off. And I was like, man, I've always wanted to be a DJ, and kind of something that has been with me since I was young was I always love adventure. I always want to go do something cool, unique, and like I love going and just being
Like
let's-
something outside of your comfort zone.
totally.
Yeah,
And-
a little adrenaline junkie.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I was like, I bought a couple turntables at a pawn shop with my severance. I got laid off
nice,
with.
dude. Okay, it sounds like a good business plan already.
Yeah, a janky little 2-channel mixer.
Oh, realistic.
No, it was a Pioneer, but it had been dropped down a few stairs.
Right. It had a few drinks spilled on
Yeah.
it already. It was well seasoned.
Oh yeah, and I went to R-Type Records in Fort Worth and met Mikey and Jason, and I was asking them for certain artists, and they're like, "How do you know this and you're not a DJ?" I was like, "Oh, I've just been listening to this stuff forever. I love this kind of music. I love progressive house and break beats and all that." And immediately, just we found out we were going to the same party, and so I that set me off on my career as a DJ. And
You found your tribe and your crew.
of course.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I had a gig at this place called Halo Lounge in Fort Worth making $50 on a Wednesday. And I decided to go back to school, failed out again,
Right.
and decided I was just going to go be a DJ. At the time, it wasn't making a whole lot of money, so I was doing some sales assistant work in model homes because I still had those connections.
Right.
And I never missed. I say never. I very rarely missed work until the end of my kind of addiction.
Your
career.
run. Right.
Yeah, because I would go out and party. I would show up to work the next morning. I'd still be rolling, driving into work. I would still be, you know, have stayed up on a Tuesday night all night.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
But at that point, this was like 2008.
Uh-huh.
My DJ career had started to really pick up.
Right.
making good money. I was DJing 6 nights a week.
And your cocaine career was off the chain.
Of course.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
like-
well, because I remember, dude, like back, we would cross paths,
Sure.
and like you would be, and it was like the thing to do. Like, you DJ at a sushi bar. Okay, cool. You get, 3 hundo. You get free alcohol, free sushi, and
Well,
whatever. But I remember you always having the white powder for sure. Yeah.
I think it was I don't know if it was what Dylan Francis or Knife Party. They have that song "I Do Coke so I can work longer, so I can earn more, so I can do more coke."
that was my life.
That song is heavy, dude.
That was my life.
Yeah.
And so when I was like 15 days after my 21st birthday, I got a DWI. I was asleep at the wheel of my truck at a stoplight with my foot on the brake.
Wow.
On North Beach Street in Fort Worth.
Okay.
I had my girlfriend's sorority formal the next day in Shreveport, and I was in jail
Right.
and wasn't able to go. Immediately, my parents put me into. They're like, they were covering some stuff for me. I was 21, barely making it, and I mean, I had enough to support my bills, but the partying and stuff, I had that, I can't afford, and they would help me with stuff periodically. And
Sure.
they're like, well, if you want that help, you got to go to, this drug counseling. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up getting 7 days of work detail for my DWI.
Oh, nice. Orange jacket on the side of the road.
7 days, and I was done.
Right.
And very little consequences. And so I started going to this therapist, and this therapist, I don't know, he never drug tested me, never drug tested anybody, in the group, because it was all legal stuff.
Was he chemical dependency or counselor?
But he mainly worked with the attorney.
Ah, okay.
So it was like you go and he didn't drug test you because he would be like, oh, well, he's in our program, he's doing very well. And there was never anything saying like,
Right.
oh, well, he failed 47 times.
Right, yeah.
And
There you go.
and I would show up and, have a bowl loaded in the car, as soon as we leave, smoke a bowl. And I was supposed to go to a bunch of AA meetings, forged all of my AA
Oh, yeah.
tickets. I had never been to an AA meeting until I got sober.
Uh-huh.
But I was supposed to go for 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Or 7 years,
Yeah,
or some
sure.
ridiculous number. And so after that, my addiction just was on a steady, path to chaos. Mm-hmm. And I was down in Austin in 2010 and got arrested.
Good place for chaos.
Oh, yeah. And
Right.
they do not mess around down there.
Right.
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got arrested with an empty bag of cocaine in my truck. We got pulled over.
Well, at least you had done it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot it was in my pocket.
Oh, there you go.
And he searched me, found it, let my buddy go, and then took me to jail. And so I stayed in jail. He was supposed to bail me out and didn't. I kept calling him, and he didn't want to go up to the jail to help me out because he just didn't want them to know who he was.
Right. He didn't want to be attached.
Yeah, like that.
with you.
That wasn't already.
Right.
You were with him.
Right. And so I ended up staying in jail for a couple days because I didn't want to call my parents. And I kept hoping that he would get me out. I called my girlfriend. She was trying to get me out. And it ended up having to have the, attorney get
Right.
involved. And I called my parents. And I mean, I was at the state jail transfer facility. Like,
Oh, you were getting ready to go
yeah, because
Go away.
cocaine is a
hell of a drug.
well, it is a hell of a drug.
State jail felony. Yeah.
Right.
It's a state jail felony in Texas.
Right.
So, even the empty baggie was going to be a felony.
Wow.
And so as soon as I get back, I'm smoking weed driving home from jail.
Okay.
Because I found the
Good.
weed that was in my truck.
Good call.
Yep.
Right.
And so I get back, start going into the drug counseling thing again. Couldn't stay sober. At this point, I really wanted to stay sober. This is in like 2010. I say that. I didn't want to be sober, but I was tired of being miserable.
Right. Right.
And it got to a point where I wasn't happy sober and I wasn't happy using, but I couldn't stop. And
Yeah.
like physically couldn't. I would wake up in the morning, I would drive to work. I'd be grabbing. I remember this vividly, like grabbing the steering wheel and almost like ripping it off. I was so angry at myself, and being like
for doing it again. Yeah.
it was, and I would like be like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
like how could this? How could I keep doing this? And I would drive to work, and then by 5 o'clock, I was miserable, and I would end up at my drug dealer's house, and it was an
I just wanna
everyday
say-
thing.
Shout out to the first F-bomb that he dropped, dude.
There you go, dude.
Hopefully the first of many on this show.
It was very powerful.
It was.
It was very powerful.
Yeah, dude.
No, but I mean, it was that way. I mean, and I know that frustration that when you want to quit, but you can't, and that desperation, and it's just like at that point. I mean, for me, I had to go to rehab because I couldn't navigate it myself. But then also an important thing I think you said was that you wanted it. Because that's the thing I always tell, when people come to me for advice, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, here's one thing. You cannot make somebody want to quit. Right. So they have to want that for themselves. And then it becomes any lengths necessary.
It wasn't that I wanted to quit. It was that I
wanted to dial it back.
I didn't want to be miserable anymore.
Right.
I didn't know that I could be happy and sober because I only thought that being happy meant getting as fucked up as you could get with your friends.
Right.
And
Yep.
partying, and that was what made you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just knew that I couldn't continue down the path that I was going on, but there was no way to derail it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like just a path, like a runaway train.
Mm-hmm.
And right at the, at the end, so I ended up getting probation. They dropped my charge. I got attempt to possess a controlled substance. I didn't know that you could attempt to possess a controlled substance.
You were attempting to.
Shout out
When-
state of Texas for changing those laws. 'Cause I don't even think that's a.
You were
I've never even heard of that.
You were
That's
attempting
wild.
to.
That's what a good attorney
That's a blessing.
You were
right there, yeah.
you were attempting to have a full bag of cocaine, but you had done it all. So
Well, the messed up
it
thing
was an
really is
attempt.
that the reason that happened was I had a great attorney.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
a lot
yeah,
of people
there you
can't
go.
afford that, and
Yeah.
and I was so grateful to have that opportunity that not a lot of people have. And looking back on it today, that's something I'm immensely grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And try to help as many people as I can because by God's grace, go on.
Yeah, you could have a face tat by now, dude,
course.
or a neck tat.
Got some lightning bolts, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would have been dead.
Yeah.
So like,
Okay, so we were talking at breakfast the other day, but where were you like as far as poundage wise? I mean, because you were withering away, right?
Yeah, so there's a picture I found of me and that same photographer that we used to go over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I show people that picture and they're like, how is that even you?
Right.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was more bloated from just all the Jägermeister and
Jaeger.
cocaine and Molly.
Yeah.
But after I got that charge reduced, I went to probation. I had 2 years of probation. And they messed with me hard because they could see that I was not there to get well.
Right.
And I was using,
And they were actually probably piss testing you as well.
of course. So
Well, there we go.
I was still using, but I was figuring out how to move around that.
Sure.
I would do it up to a certain point and then drink the drinks and
Right.
all that
Sure.
stuff. And they quit drug testing me. So it got to where, the addiction is like very chronic, very predictable, and so at one point when they knew that if they quit drug testing me that I would start to go down, be like, oh, get more brazen with.
Yeah, sure.
And I went in, I had used 2 nights before, and they wanted to drug test me, and I was like, I am fucked. And I was there for like 3 hours because I couldn't pee because I was so nervous.
Right.
And ended up finally just giving in, failed. And then I quit going to probation.
Always a good move.
Because at this point, I was so miserable. I couldn't stop. Life was, just spiraling down. I had, creditors closing in. I had losing friends. Family didn't want anything to do with me. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't stop. The law was now after me. I quit going to probation, and the police started showing up at my house to look for me. And at this point, I realized I thought that my only option was to die. I thought that was the only way I was going to be relieved of this pain that I was in, because I was in fucking pain, miserable pain, and
it's completely indescribable.
it is.
Yeah,
And-
well,
and-
that level of desperation, and that's what I say. Like, a lot of addicts, that's the common bond. Is we know that level of desperation.
where
So
I literally didn't think that. I thought that the only solution to the pain that I was in was to die,
Yeah.
and I was ready, and I was getting to that point, and I was going to have this one big party, and I was going to kill myself the next week. I'd pretty
Wow.
much like planned it out, and the day after the big party, my parents showed up at my house and said we were like about to load a bowl or something, and this was on April 21st. I had partied really hard the night before. April 21st, this was in 2012.
okay,
First day of sobriety.
420 blaze it.
Oh,
Right.
421 was my first day of sobriety.
Yeah.
So we had this party. The next day, we were about to smoke, and my parents showed up, and they said, "We're going to call 911 and tell them where you are, or you can come with us to the therapist's office." Same one that I had been going to for years. That
Right.
didn't help me at all. And so I was like, well, lit up a cigarette, and I was like, I guess I'll just go on a vacation for 30 days, see how it
yeah,
goes.
right.
I can at least get away from my problems that way, because they said, oh, well, we got to get you out of state and this. I was like, oh, cool. Like, okay,
Right, paid
this is-
vacation.
It's a little runaway.
Yeah.
And I started thinking like, oh, this is a good like,
This is a good opportunity to go MIA in another state.
of course. So
This is my new chance, my new break to do drugs again in a state.
I've always wanted.
Right?
so they,
Welcome to Miami.
Yeah, right?
So they asked me to if I wanted to go to the mountains or the desert, and I picked the mountains. And my dad put me in his car. I had to get out of the state that night because if you're in the state of Texas, the Texas Rangers will come pull you out of treatment.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, if you're in the situation that I was in,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they do that anymore. I think inpatient
Yeah, I think
treatment,
there's a
they
HIPAA
wait.
thing going
Yeah.
on now.
I'm not sure how they do that, but yeah,
it
that
was
is
almost 11 years ago.
Right, yeah.
So I detoxed in the car with my dad on the way out there. It was awful. And I get there, and I remember my dad just
Which
having
mountains were you going to?
North Carolina.
There we go. Okay.
So my dad, I could tell he was like distraught when he dropped me off, and I was like, hey, I got this. It'll be fine. I didn't realize what that actually meant, because at the time, what I got this meant was like, I'm going to be fine for 30 days.
Right.
Don't worry for the next 30 days. And then after that, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
But they dropped me off at treatment. And I get there, and my counselor was like the head counselor.
Okay.
He was a prick.
All right.
And his name was Tom. I love Tom today.
Okay.
At the time, not so much.
Dude, isn't that wild? Like they were like this fucking prick when they were. It's because they're dead on, right?
Yeah. No, he knew I was a little bitch.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was basically like, listen, your parents are not paying for another fucking thing for you. You're going to call them right now and tell them that you're going to pay for treatment.
Right.
And you're going to call them right now and tell them you're going to pay for everything going forward, and you're done.
Right.
And I was like, how? I don't have any money. He goes, you're going to figure it out. And made me call him. And then I remember asking to talk to my girlfriend one day. He was from New York. He was like, didn't you ask me for that shit yesterday? I was like, yeah. He goes, get the fuck out of my office.
Nice.
I mean, he beat me up. But I remember about 10 days in, I had a meltdown because my girlfriend was out having fun. I was in treatment. Again, little bitch syndrome.
Right.
And I was sitting out with one of the counselors, and we were in the golf cart, and we were sitting in front of this big waterfall. And all of us, like I after I had the meltdown and like calmed down, a few hours had gone by, and I like felt at peace, and I felt happiness for the first time in a decade sober.
Right.
Like there was just something that just came over me.
Little glimpse.
Little spiritual awakening, maybe.
Sort of.
Okay.
And so I remember that day like it was yesterday too. Mm-hmm. Because that day was that feeling is the feeling I've been chasing since I got sober.
Right.
Because it was the first time I realized I could be happy and sober. Mm-hmm. And then little did I realize that not only would I be happy and sober, the entire world would open up to me sober.
Oh, yeah.
And so I at that point, it was like, I need to quit listening to what's going on in here because my brain is fucked up.
Yep.
And I'm going to listen to these people that are also happy and sober and try it. Because what the fuck do I have to lose? I was going to die. I was going to kill myself.
What I'm doing is not working.
Literally at this point, I would have been dead if my parents hadn't shown up at my house.
Sure. Well, you had planned it all out,
right?
Dude. So that's insane. Yeah.
And so I, at the end of my treatment, they're like, you need to live in a recovery residence. They had contacted the probation officer. The probation officer was like, you got to listen to whatever the treatment facility says. The judge, same thing.
Right.
They wanted me sober. And so I moved to their halfway house in Greenville, South Carolina. Lived there for 3 months.
Okay.
Still, kind of messed up in the head, and I had manipulated my way to get back to Texas to be with my girlfriend.
Ah, right.
Got a job. I have sponsees and people I help in recovery and stuff, and they always ask me questions. I'm like, dude, I can tell you what to do.
Right.
And I can tell you what I would do. But until you make these choices and learn from them, you're not going to learn.
Right.
And so, because I made some poor choices, but still stayed sober.
Right.
Partly because I learned that, maybe I shouldn't do that. So
Right.
I get back.
Well, it's not like you're going to get sober and become a perfect person.
Of course.
So, yeah, no, that's not how it works.
11 years sober, or almost
Right.
11 years sober and still not a perfect
Right.
person. So,
But almost, right?
not even close. Totally different set of issues these
Right.
days. But in such a better place.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so,
Well, you're not dead.
Of course.
There we go.
So I moved back, stayed at in a halfway house in Dallas, or in Fort Worth for 9 months. Mm-hmm. And everyone in the halfway house had relapsed. The owner of the halfway house has passed away from addiction.
Oh, wow.
They made me the house manager when I was 6 months sober because
you were the only one that was still sober?
Well, the house manager went to prison.
Okay.
And then everyone relapsed or left. And
Sure.
it was like me in this house with one guy.
Right.
And we ended up going to Vice, a nightclub, one night, sober.
Okay.
And had a great time.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that when I got sober, I was like, man, that's something I'm going to miss is
Uh-huh.
partying and DJing. And because they tell you got to change your people, places, and things, which is
Right.
very true.
Right. Unless
To an
your
extent.
people, places, things is your job or
Right.
your, potential career.
Or the thing that gives you joy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we went to the club that night and had a great time. I had gone to a club when I was in Greenville, South Carolina, and had like a panic attack and left. And so I was in a totally different place with someone in recovery, went and had fun.
Right.
And whenever I got out of the halfway house, I went and moved in with my parents so I could save some money and go, I wanted to get out of there as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And I met my current wife
Okay.
a little after my first year of sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
We moved in together very quickly.
Right.
Another thing that people tell you not to do.
Right. Yeah.
We're still married and very happy.
Yeah.
And we have been through a lot together in our recovery and helped each other so much. I wouldn't be where I am without her, and I'm sure vice versa. We really have been a great support system for each other.
Right.
I went to AA a lot. That was my go-to.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what was your secret sauce? I always like to get that, because it's different for everybody.
Sure. I think my secret sauce is being desperate to be happy and willing to do whatever I need to do to be happy and sober.
Gotcha.
Because sobriety to me equals happiness.
But
And
then, as far as your success, would you equate a lot of that? Because it seems like you're a big CA person. So would you say that the 12 steps was a huge part of your recovery?
at a time, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I was Captain AA. When I got
Captain
back.
AA.
Sure, I was all about it.
I've known that guy.
Yeah, of course. I was all
Right.
about it. It was great, because it's a really easy place to go help people. It's an easy place to find other people that are dealing with the same issues you're dealing with. And my first 2 years was very AA focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, I was still going to that therapist,
Right.
the terrible one, and
Mm-hmm.
was really not getting anything out of it. And he closed down for the whole month of December every year. That was his vacation time.
Right.
And I had just moved back. I was fucked up in the head.
Right.
I needed help still. And
You'll have to catch me in January, kid.
right. That's how
Right,
it was.
yeah.
And so I went and found this other therapist who just helped set me free
Right.
and was so good. And it was such a blessing.
Uh-huh.
And when that happened, I started to kind of grow out of, I shouldn't say grow out of AA, but like it just got to where it wasn't as helpful as it was in the very beginning.
Sure.
And I needed to deal with some shit from my childhood, my past.
Right,
And
you got that past trauma and all that stuff. Hey, real quick, let me throw to our sponsor here. We've got thispinklawyer.com, which will take you to the Lone Star Injury Attorney's website and ask for Max the Axe. Max the Axe is our good friend of the show, and he is a personal injury lawyer, and he will get you maximum results. He practices in Texas and California, and that is this California. And thispinklawyer.com will take you to his website. Also, we have our friends at NeuroGlow, and that is NEUROGLOW.com, and they are ketamine infusion therapy. Right? Shout out ketamine.
Shout out ketamine.
But in a clinical setting, they microdose, and they see results with PTSD, suicidal ideology, and maybe somebody that's treatment resistant as far as normal treatment avenues go. And then, of course, I'm excited, dude. We get to, and you're a DJ, so we get to plug this track, dude. We've got a new track out, right?
Yeah. And it's
good.
right here.
You try and try so hard. Failure is your just reward. There is a lesson you must learn. Play with fire, you must get burned.
Move, bitch.
There you go. See, now it goes into
There we go.
the other song. But that's our new track, and it's coming out on Beatport. If you look up Kelly Reverb and Chad Lamons, it's called Must Get Burned, and it'll also be streaming and all that stuff. So if you want to scare your neighbors, play that song.
sick.
Right. Sick, bro. Sick. But speaking of production and all that good stuff, you've been okay, I'll go ahead and tell the story.
Sure.
Like, I was over at Willie Trimmers, and I'm like, man, this guy... Okay, it had been like 15 years since we had seen each other, right? And you were skinny, rail thin back in the day. And I see you there, and I'm like, well, this guy looks really familiar, And it's like somebody I should know, Like where I'm like, oh, I'm a dick if I don't remember who this is, to that level. And I'm like, well... Okay, so I'll just go do the Instagram thing, right? Oh, here, dude, follow me on Instagram. So he follows me on Instagram. His name is Faucon on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, well, that still doesn't help, but I'll just ask Willie later before I leave. And then, whatever happens. And and then I start kind of, I left Willie's and then, forgot to ask him or whatever. But then I started quietly stalking you. But everything under Faucon says nothing about your name, no Andrew Blanchard. So I'm secretly stalking you for like 2 weeks trying to figure this out. And then finally, like a month rolls by and I go, Willie, and I just sent him a text. I'm like, who's Faucon, dude? And he goes, that's Andrew Blanchard, dude. And I'm like, oh, fuck, it is, isn't it, dude? And then I'm like, and then I hit you up, and I'm like, now that I know who you are, I'm like, dude, what's up, bro? Like,
It's so sick.
Yeah. So it was funny, but that was the story. And then, obviously you've been producing and all this stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you have going on?
Well, so, Faucon is hawk in French.
Mm-hmm.
Pronouncing it incorrectly for Americans that
Right.
don't know how it's pronounced.
How is it pronounced?
I don't even want to say it because I'll butcher it. It's like Faucon.
Oh, okay.
But even that's not correct.
Right.
So, hawk has been a spiritual, a big important part of my spiritual journey, and has always shown up when I'm like on the right path. Like there were times in treatment I had a hawk present a feather on a trail.
Okay.
I had I remember the first time I shared my story at treatment, there was a red-tailed hawk sitting on a post right next to where I walked out,
Right.
just staring at me, and when I did my first fifth step, there was a hawk that flew over the house when I walked outside, just like calling out.
Right.
And-
Then you got the hawk doing the Robert De Niro thing.
Yeah.
Whenever you walk out.
Well, what's crazy is even today, almost 11 years sober, I still see the hawk. And
Wow.
this hawk still shows up when I'm on the right path. I still have this deep connection with that. And so when I started producing bass music, like West Coast hippie bass music stuff.
Oh, yeah.
When I got sober, and I loved that. It was cool, but it was never really me because I always loved house music, DJ breaks and tech house and house music. That was my thing.
Right.
And so whenever I was like, I just kind of got burned out on the bass music stuff. I love listening to it, but I got burned out producing it. Mm-hmm. Started working on house music, and it just came so natural. One of my friends, I was like, how did they do this? And he was like, showed me a couple little tricks. I was like, fucking house music. I was like,
Right.
Just a light bulb went off. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted the name to be something that is important to me and meaningful.
Right.
And this has been the most fun musical journey I've ever been on. And
Right.
I think part of that too is just like I'm in such a place with my sobriety and my recovery that I am able to be happy and enjoy life.
Well,
like
and
never
pursue
before.
your dreams,
Sure.
so to speak. I mean, and what those entail. I mean, really. I mean, when I talk to people about music and stuff like that, I always tell them, "Hey, man, you paint because you're a painter, so
Right.
you paint, and that's what I tell people. And don't do it for accolades or anything else. Do it because it makes you happy. And then if it makes you happy and you like what you make, then F everybody else, you
Right.
know?
Well, because the music industry will eat you up and spit
Oh,
you out. And
yeah.
if you don't love it, you're just a masochist.
Right.
But it, whenever I started producing tech house, it really changed everything for me. Like I was making progressive house, tech house, any kind of stuff like that. And last year I got to play in LA.
Yeah.
At Sound, I got to play a few shows down in Houston, and play Lights All Night on a big stage. And
Right. And you're also
You
co-produced.
played Lights All Night this year?
Year before last.
Oh, okay, cool.
And you're also co-producing some music with Scotty Boy, right?
Yep.
Which
we just
yeah.
released a track together. Scotty's a really good friend.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Total
Great dude.
Total shout out, Scotty Boy.
Woo!
There you go.
And Larry Granite.
That was super late.
So Larry Granite and I. He was
I
a part
love
of-
Larry Granite. He is the nicest human ever, dude.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he used to come play in Fort Worth because he was with Granite and Funk, and they
Right.
were from
Whatever
Fort
happened
Worth.
to Funk?
He's doing acoustic music and stuff.
Okay,
Like,
I could see that dude with the hair.
yeah, he's so good.
Yeah.
And they're great guys. I partied with them a lot back in the day. And
Uh-huh.
we ran into each other at It'll Do
Yeah.
and just started talking. And I was like, man, "Are you still producing?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "Man, I got a bunch of ideas, but just kind of doing it for fun here and there." And
To set the stage, Larry's the kind of guy you would just go, "Hey, dude, I'm going to borrow your 60-inch television here real quick," and he'd be like, "Okay, yeah, cool, man."
Well, by the way, It'll Do is like just a staple in like any. Yeah, so many people know about that place from out of state and everything.
But it's
else.
also because of Don Nedler and Lizard Lounge is
Yep.
really
Yeah.
where the fame carried over from.
Sure.
That place is
which
super cool.
Yeah.
Well, Larry and I just co-headlined a show there.
Nice.
A few weeks ago.
Well, dude, I am so out of the loop. You need to text me
It was in
next
January.
time, dude.
It was before you and I had
Reconnected. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
And so he was like, "Man, we should do something." I was like, "That sounds great."
Right.
And so he sent me a bunch of ideas, and we started working on some stuff, and we
Mm-hmm.
finished 3 tracks, and one of them is probably one of the coolest tracks.
Is it out yet, or
we've
is it
created.
coming
No.
out? No. Now you get the fun part of getting like no, or you don't even get a reply.
Of course.
But I love the secret, like where you do it on the SoundCloud link, and then you're like, you listen to it, and then you go, oh, you listened to it twice. Now you want it, dude.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly, like, I've got to where I'm just happy creating something really cool.
Right.
And
But I mean, that's the part that sucks for me is that business part where you're like, it's the rejection letters or whatever, are not for us. But then just, I don't really care about being vulnerable but it's just the whole gatekeeping, and then okay, did Mark from Tool Room actually listen to it? That kind of thing.
A shout out to Infected Mushroom for making the Gatekeeper plugin, which is super cool, dude.
well,
All right.
one of the things that one of my really good friends has tried to harp on, which I will tell you here, and
Yeah.
I do not listen to it ever, which is these guys that are A&Rs for these companies, they get bombarded all day, every day with
Oh, yeah.
dubstep. And
No,
like
and
a house A&R gets dubstep.
Okay.
So you wonder, like, when you're doing it yourself, sending the demo, you're like, why are they not listening? Like, this is a good song. Like, you believe that. But breaking through to something like that, like, it's easy to understand how that's not that possible.
Right.
And I'm telling you this right now.
Uh-huh.
And just like last week, I was like, whoa, why are they listening to it? I mean, so it's so much harder when it's your own stuff. But, that is the reality.
Right.
Oh, dude, they probably get thousands a week.
But watch this.
course.
Yeah, Andrew hasn't even listened to our stuff, dude.
Oh, yeah. That's
I'm
the
calling
stuff
you out.
you
I
sent me?
see you like.
Yeah, I listened to it.
I didn't see you play it on SoundCloud.
I absolutely listened
And
to it.
we have the little SoundCloud Pro so we can see who listens to it.
That's right.
I am certain that I listened to it.
I'm certain. But no, that's a funny thing, and that's obviously a little off subject. But it's just crazy that you've got to be able. What I say to my friend, he's got a really small label, but he gets so many submissions, and I'm like, dude, you got to be a turd digger. You got to look through that. Oh, I know somebody dropped a diamond ring in this big pile of shit, and I get it. So, but then, it's good once you become an established producer, and then you can actually have those bridges, built, and okay, I'm going in the front door instead of, carrier pigeon.
Right. Well, I've got to where now I'm really enjoying collabs and working on stuff with friends.
Right.
Because I enjoy playing the music
Right.
in front of people. And, I played Larry and I and my new track last weekend. And, I mean, it was the track of the night. It was awesome.
Nice. I want to hear it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. For
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Top secret.
Extra special double top secret. Never coming out, and it's going to be an ID for the rest of my life.
Man, I was Left Right was playing It'll Do recently. Chris, really good friend, and he was playing the song, and I went up there. I was like, "Bro, what is this?" And he was like, shook his head at me, and I was like,
Ain't coming out.
No, you got to tell me what this is. It wasn't his.
And you're Shazamming it.
Oh yeah, But it was this song that's only on Bandcamp, and it's £1,000 to purchase it.
Oh wow!
But you can figure out there's a way to get the download link. But you got to like figure out all this stuff.
It's like a treasure map to through hyped it to sign up for it to
no,
get
it's
it. Yeah.
way worse than that.
Yeah.
And because this song was just fire. It
Yeah.
like, had some R&B vibes in it. It was like house, real housey.
I want to hear it, dude.
It's so
Now
sick.
I want to hear it.
But,
$1,000, dude.
But that one's also
live.
that one. He was like, "Yeah, you can't share this."
Right. That's funny. Well, dude, I always like to give the guest a chance to shout out maybe to somebody that was important in your recovery or just important in your life now.
Man, shout out to Taylor, my wife.
Okay.
So grateful for her. Shout out to my folks, definitely for saving me. And shout out to Chris Lund. For supporting my music and helping me grow as an artist, because I definitely would have struggled without that. And,
Right.
and all my friends along the way. There's been so many people that have helped me in my recovery, and I'm just grateful for each and every one of them.
Right. Okay. Well, and then you've got new stuff coming out, so keep your eyes peeled on those Beatport charts for Faucon.
Thanks, guys.
Faucon.
Faucon.
Faucon. Faucon. The don't. Faucon.
I'm gonna be drinking Champagne with Chad Lemons.
Right. There you
Listening
go.
to Faucon.
There you go. Well, bro, thank you very much for coming out. Appreciate you, sharing your story and getting vulnerable. And, who knows? Maybe this will help somebody.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. Seriously.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
big ups for you guys doing this.
Well, we'd love to have you back on if you ever have a chance or a new track or whatever.
And
You
work
can
on
come
some
and-
music together, too.
Yeah, that too. But then also come out and guest host on the show. We always have people come back that we like and that are friends of the show.
Sweet. Would love to.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I guess next week I'm excited. We actually have a friend of mine, a new friend of mine, who is a what is it when they paint murals? A painter? No, but like they tag stuff. Graffiti artist.
Graffiti artist,
There you
yeah.
go. So she's a big graffiti artist. Toy Invades, and she's actually out of Miami, and I actually got to meet her. While I was there. But, she's going to be really good. She has a great story, so be sure and tune in for that. And also, please subscribe. We are on all major platforms. And other than that, remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.
Of course.
Don't go.